She arrived at Changi Airport just after midnight, her carry-on bag slung over one shoulder, her phone clutched in her other hand. The terminal was vast and gleaming, all polished marble and soft white light, the kind of architecture that made you feel small and significant at the same time. Maya Chen had never been to Singapore before. She had never been this far from home, never taken a trip like this, never done anything this spontaneous or reckless or brave, depending on how you looked at it. But as she walked through the arrival gates, past families reuniting and businessmen hurrying toward taxis, past the duty-free shops closing for the night, and the janitors polishing the already spotless floors, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, trembling, terrifying hope. For 6 months, she had been talking to Daniel Reeves. 6 months of messages that started casual and became constant, that turned from polite exchanges about the weather and work into deep conversations about dreams and disappointments and all the things they had never told anyone else. 6 months of video calls that stretched past midnight, where they would talk until her eyes burned and her voice went hoarse, where he would lean close to the camera and say things that made her heart race. 6 months of voice notes she replayed when she couldn't sleep, his accent smooth and confident, telling her about his day, asking about hers, saying her name in a way that made her feel seen. 6 months of promises that felt too good to be real, but also too specific to be lies. He told her about his penthouse overlooking Marina Bay, about the floor-to-ceiling windows that turned the city into a painting at night. He showed her screenshots of his crypto portfolio, numbers with so many zeros she had to count them twice, transactions that cleared in seconds, gains that seemed impossible. But he explained them in a way that made sense, that made her feel like maybe she just didn't understand this world yet. He sent her photos of himself at rooftop bars, at private dinners with white tablecloths and candles, standing beside luxury cars that gleamed under Singapore's neon skyline. And he told her, over and over, in 1,000 different ways, that he wanted her there, with him, that she was different from anyone he had ever met, that she was the one he had been waiting for. Maya was 32 years old. She lived in a small apartment in Portland, Oregon, a one-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a building that smelled like old carpet and cooking oil, and worked as a graphic designer for a marketing firm that paid her just enough to cover rent and student loans and not much else. Her last relationship had ended 2 years ago. Badly. The kind of bad that made her friends stop asking about it. And since then, she had been careful. Guarded. She didn't date much. She didn't trust easily. She swiped through dating apps without much interest, went on first dates that never turned into second ones, and told herself she was fine with being alone, that she preferred it, that she had learned her lesson. But Daniel had been different. He had been patient. He had been kind. He had listened when she talked about her work, about the clients who never appreciated her ideas, about her family and the complicated dynamics she was always trying to navigate, about her dreams of traveling but never having the money or the courage to actually do it. He asked questions. He remembered details. When she mentioned wanting to visit Japan, he sent her photos of Tokyo at night and said they should go together someday. When she told him about a bad day at work, he called her, not texted, actually called, and talked her through it until she felt better. And slowly, carefully, day by day and message by message, he had made her believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved something more than what she had settled for. The invitation came in late September. He said he wanted to fly her out, first class, a week in Singapore, all expenses paid. He said he wanted to show her his world, the life he had built, the places he loved. He said he wanted to see if what they had online could be real in person, if the connection they felt through screens could translate into something tangible, something lasting. Maya hesitated. She told her best friend Jenna, who immediately said it sounded too good to be true, that men who offered to fly women across the world were either lying or dangerous or both. She told her sister, who said she was being reckless, that she barely knew this person, that she was going to get herself killed or worse. But Daniel sent her the ticket, a real ticket, booked through Singapore Airlines, her name printed on the confirmation email, C12A, departing October 3rd. And when she looked at the balance in her savings account, the number that had barely changed in 5 years, when she thought about her small apartment and her predictable job and the life she had been living on autopilot, she thought about what it would feel like to say yes to something just once, without fear holding her back. So she went. The first message came while she was still in the immigration line, inching forward with her passport and arrival card in hand. Her phone buzzed, and when she looked down, she saw his name lighting up the screen. Landed yet? She smiled and typed back quickly, her thumbs clumsy with exhaustion and excitement. Just got through, waiting for my bag. Can't wait to see you. Driver's outside. Black Mercedes. He'll have your name. Her heart kicked in her chest, hard and fast. This was real. This was actually happening. In a few minutes, she would be in a car, and then she would see him, and then everything she'd imagined for 6 months would stop being imagination. She collected her suitcase from the carousel, a battered gray Samsonite that looked shabby next to the leather luggage sliding past, and walked through customs with nothing to declare but hope. Outside, the night air hit her like a wall. It was warm and heavy, thick with humidity that made her clothes stick to her skin immediately. The smell was different here, tropical and urban at the same time, a mix of flowers and exhaust and something else she couldn't name. A man in a dark suit stood near the curb holding a sign with her name printed in neat block letters. She walked toward him, her suitcase rattling behind her on uneven wheels, and he nodded professionally, took her bag without a word, and gestured toward a sleek black car idling at the curb with its hazard lights blinking. "Reeves is waiting," he said in accented English, his tone polite but distant. Maya climbed into the back seat. The leather was cool and soft, and the interior smelled faintly of cologne and new money, that particular scent of luxury that she had only encountered in hotel lobbies and department stores she couldn't afford to shop in. As the car pulled away from the terminal and merged into the sparse late-night traffic, she looked out the window at the city sliding past. Towers of glass and steel rising into the dark like something out of a science fiction film, lights reflecting off water, palm trees lining perfectly maintained highways. Everything felt surreal, like she had stepped through a door into someone else's life, someone more interesting and braver than she had ever been. Her phone buzzed again. "Driver will bring you to the hotel. I'm finishing a meeting, but I'll be there in an hour. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start fresh." She stared at the message for a long moment. An hour. She had been imagining him waiting at the airport, pulling her into his arms the way people did in movies, the kind of reunion that made everyone around them smile. But this was fine. This made sense. He was busy. He had a life here, a real life with meetings and obligations, not just the version he showed her on a screen during carefully chosen moments. The hotel was not what she expected. The driver pulled up to a mid-range building near Little India, far from the glittering towers of Marina Bay she had seen in Daniel's photos, far from the luxury she had imagined. The exterior was plain concrete painted pale yellow, the kind of budget hotel that catered to business travelers and backpackers. The lobby was clean but dated, the carpet worn near the elevators, the furniture mismatched and functional. A tired-looking clerk with a name tag that said, Kevin checked her in without much interest and handed her a key card. Room 507. Maya rode the elevator up alone, her reflection staring back at her from the mirrored walls, and she looked tired and uncertain in the fluorescent light. The hallway smelled faintly of cleaning solution and old cigarette smoke that no amount of air freshener could completely hide. She unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room was small. A double bed with a thin floral comforter that had been washed too many times. A desk with a lamp and a binder of tourist information. A chair with a stain on the armrest. A bathroom with a rust stain in the sink and a shower curtain that didn't quite close all the way. She set her suitcase down and sat on the edge of the bed, the springs creaking beneath her, her phone still in her hand. She texted Daniel. "I'm here. Room 507. This is the hotel?" 3 dots appeared almost immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again, like he was typing and deleting and typing again. "Yeah, just for tonight. My place is being cleaned. Didn't want you to deal with the mess. We'll move you tomorrow. I want everything to be perfect." She nodded to herself even though he couldn't see her. That made sense. It was fine. She was being paranoid. She was tired. She was in a foreign country in the middle of the night, and her expectations had been too high. But something in her chest felt tight. She waited. She showered, the water pressure weak and inconsistent, and changed into clean clothes. She sat on the bed scrolling through her phone, refreshing her messages, looking at the photos Daniel had sent her over the months, trying to match them to the reality she had landed in. An hour passed. Then 2. The city outside her window grew quieter. At 3 in the morning, she finally texted him again, trying to keep her tone light and understanding even though doubt was starting to creep in like cold water. "Are you coming?" The reply came 5 minutes later. "So sorry. Meeting ran late. These investors are brutal. Get some sleep. I'll pick you up at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Breakfast at my favorite place. I promise it'll be worth the wait. I promise." Maya stared at the message for a long time, reading it over and over, looking for reassurance in the words. Then she set her phone on the nightstand, turned off the lamp, and lay down in the unfamiliar bed, listening to the hum of the air conditioner and the distant sound of traffic below and the strange quiet of a city that wasn't hers. She told herself it was fine. She told herself this was just the first night and things would be better in the morning. She told herself not to let doubt creep in, not to ruin this before it even started. But sleep didn't come easily. And when it finally did, her dreams were uneasy. The next morning, Daniel finally appeared. He picked her up in a white Audi, sunglasses on even though the sky was overcast, a bright smile that looked exactly like the photos, exactly like she remembered from their video calls. He was handsome, tall, maybe 6'1" or 6'2", well-dressed in a crisp linen shirt and expensive jeans that fit perfectly. He hugged her when she got in the car, pulled her close, and for a moment everything felt right again. The doubt from the night before evaporated. This was him. This was real. "You look amazing," he said, his hand resting on her knee as he drove, his thumb tracing small circles on her jeans. "I'm so glad you're here. You have no idea how long I've been waiting for this." They went to breakfast at a rooftop cafe overlooking the city, the kind of place where the menu didn't have prices and the waiters wore white gloves. The food was beautiful, arranged on plates like art, and Maya took photos because she knew she would never eat anywhere like this again. The view was breathtaking, the skyline stretching out in every direction, buildings stacked on buildings reaching toward clouds. Daniel talked about his investments, his plans, the deals he was closing. He ordered champagne even though it was barely noon, and when she hesitated he laughed and said they were celebrating, that she deserved to celebrate. He took photos of her, of them together, and posted them to his Instagram with captions about new beginnings and finding the right person. Maya felt herself relax. This was the Daniel she knew. This was the life he had promised. Everything was going to be fine. But that afternoon, things began to shift in ways she couldn't quite name. They went back to his apartment, or what he said was his apartment. It was a service studio in a building that looked nice from the outside but generic on the inside, the kind of corporate housing that felt temporary and impersonal. The furniture was minimal and modern, but clearly came with the place. The view looked out at another building, not the Marina Bay waterfront he had described. There were no personal touches, no photos, no books, nothing that suggested anyone actually lived here. When Maya asked about it carefully, trying not to sound accusatory, Daniel laughed it off easily. "I'm between places right now," he said, opening the refrigerator and pulling out a beer even though they had just finished champagne. "Selling the penthouse. Market timing, you know. Waiting for the right buyer. These things take time when you're dealing with properties at that level." She didn't know. She had never dealt with properties at any level, but she smiled and nodded and told herself it didn't matter, that she was being shallow for caring about where he lived. That night, they went to dinner at a Japanese restaurant in Chinatown, a small place with low lighting and a sushi bar where the chef worked silently behind glass. The food was incredible. Daniel paid with cash, which he pulled from a thick fold in his wallet, all hundreds, more money than Maya had seen in one place outside of a bank. He talked about a crypto deal he was closing, something big, something involving blockchain technology and international investors. Words that sounded impressive, but she didn't fully understand. He said the deal would double his portfolio by the end of the month, maybe triple it if everything went according to plan. He said he wanted to bring her in on it. He said she could invest, make real money, change her life the way he had changed his. "How much are we talking?" Maya asked carefully, her chopsticks frozen halfway to her mouth. "Start small," he said, leaning back in his chair, his expression earnest and encouraging. 10, 15,000. I'll walk you through the whole process. I'll manage it for you personally. You'll see returns in weeks, maybe days. This is the kind of opportunity most people never get access to." Maya felt her stomach tighten. She set down her chopsticks. She didn't have $15,000. She barely had $3,000 in savings, and most of that was supposed to be for emergencies, for car repairs or medical bills or the inevitable disasters that came with being an adult with no safety net. "I don't know if I can do that," she said quietly, looking down at her plate. Daniel reached across the table and took her hand, his grip warm and firm and reassuring. His eyes were sincere, the kind of sincere that made you forget your doubts. "I'm not asking you to do anything you're not comfortable with," he said softly, "but I'm telling you, Maya, this is the opportunity. This is how you get out of that cycle you've been stuck in. The job you hate, the apartment that's too small, the life that's just okay instead of extraordinary. I want to help you. I want us to build something together. Real wealth, real freedom. The kind of life where you don't have to ask permission or check your bank account before buying something you want." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. Over the next few days, the pattern repeated and deepened. Daniel was affectionate, attentive, but always busy. Always on his phone, always texting someone, always taking calls in the next room where she couldn't quite hear what he was saying, always talking about the next deal, the next meeting, the next opportunity that was just around the corner. He took her to nice places, showed her parts of the city tourists never saw, but he never seemed to have a credit card, always cash, always pulling out that thick fold of bills, always vague about where exactly the money came from or how the deals actually worked. And every conversation, no matter where it started, somehow circled back to the investment, to the chance she was missing, to the future they could have if she just trusted him enough to take the leap. Maya's friend Jenna called on the fourth day. "How is it?" she asked, her voice cautious in the way that meant she already suspected the answer. Maya was sitting alone in the service department while Daniel was out at another meeting, this one supposedly with investors from Hong Kong. She looked around the small, impersonal space, at the generic furniture and bare walls, at her suitcase still sitting in the corner unpacked because she kept telling herself they were moving to his real place tomorrow. She thought about the hotel on the first night, the vague explanations that made sense individually but felt wrong when you added them up, the constant pressure disguised as opportunity. "It's good," she said, but the words felt hollow even as she spoke them. "You sure?" Maya didn't answer right away. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to say everything was perfect, that Daniel was exactly who he said he was, that she had been right to come and Jenna had been wrong to worry. But something in her chest had been tightening since the first night, and it hadn't let go. If anything, it had gotten worse. "I think so," she said finally, but Jenna heard the doubt, heard everything Maya wasn't saying. "Maya, if something feels off, you can come home. Right now, today, you know that, right? You don't owe him anything." "I know." After she hung up, Maya sat in the silence of the apartment, the air conditioner humming, the city noise filtering through the windows. She opened her banking app and stared at her balance. $3,217. Everything she had scraped together over years of being careful, of saying no to trips and concerts and new clothes, of choosing the cheaper option every single time. It wasn't much, but it was hers. It was proof that she was responsible, that she could take care of herself, that she wasn't the kind of person who made stupid decisions. That night, Daniel brought it up again. They were lying in bed, the city lights filtering through the blinds, creating shadows on the ceiling. He turned to her, his hand stroking her hair in a way that felt both intimate and practiced, his voice soft and vulnerable in a way she hadn't heard before. "I set up an account for you," he said. "For the investment, it's all ready to go. All you have to do is transfer the funds, and I'll take care of everything else. I'll monitor it, I'll manage it, I'll make sure you get the best returns possible. I promise you, Maya, this is going to change everything. This is going to change your life." She looked at him in the dim light, his face so familiar now after 6 months of video calls, but also somehow still a stranger's face, still someone she was trying to understand. "What if I lose it?" she whispered. "You won't," he said with absolute certainty. "I won't let that happen. I've been doing this for 5 years. I know what I'm doing, and more than that, I care about you. This isn't just business to me. This is about us, about our future." She wanted to believe him. She wanted so desperately to believe him. The next morning, Maya woke up alone. Daniel had left a note on the pillow, his handwriting neat and precise. "Meeting. Back by lunch. Trust me." She sat up slowly, her head aching from the champagne they had drunk the night before, from the lack of real sleep, from the constant low-level anxiety that had been humming in her blood since she arrived. She reached for her phone and opened her messages. There was a link Daniel had sent the night before, after she had finally said yes, after exhaustion and his persistent reassurance had worn down her resistance. A crypto exchange platform she'd never heard of. Instructions on how to create an account, how to verify her identity, how to transfer funds. Her hands were shaking as she held the phone. She opened her laptop and searched the platform's name. The results were sparse and concerning. A few reviews, some in broken English, some warning about scams and lost funds. Nothing definitive, nothing certain, just enough doubt to make her pause, to make the tightness in her chest become a sharp, cold fear. But then Daniel texted, "Did you set it up yet? The window closes today. This opportunity won't wait. I need you to trust me on this, please." Maya stared at the message. She thought about the last 6 months, the hours and hours of conversation, the vulnerability they had shared, the promises, the plane ticket that had been real, the way he looked at her, the way he made her feel seen and special and like she mattered to someone for the first time in years. She thought about Jenna's voice on the phone, careful and worried, the tightness in her chest that wouldn't go away, The hotel that wasn't what he promised. The penthouse that didn't exist. The apartment that felt wrong. The constant meetings and vague explanations. And she thought about the $3,217 in her account. Everything she had, her entire safety net. The thing standing between her and disaster. Her finger hovered over the screen. She closed her eyes. And then she did it. She transferred the money. The confirmation appeared on her screen almost immediately. Transaction complete. Processing time, 24 to 48 hours. She exhaled slowly and set the phone down on the bed. It was done. For better or worse, it was done. She had trusted him. She had taken the leap. Daniel came back that afternoon with flowers and champagne. More champagne, always champagne. He kissed her and told her she had made the right choice, the best choice, the choice that was going to change everything. He said in 2 weeks, maybe 3 at most, she would see the returns and understand that this was real, that he was real, that everything he had told her was true. He said they were going to build something together, something that would last. Maya smiled. She let him hold her. She let him pour champagne into the cheap glasses from the apartment's kitchen. She let herself believe, one more time, that everything was going to be okay. But that night, when he was asleep beside her, when his breathing had gone deep and steady, she lay awake staring at the ceiling. The air conditioner rattled. The city hummed outside. And somewhere deep in her chest, in a place she didn't want to acknowledge, in a voice she kept trying to silence, she knew. She knew something was terribly, irreversibly wrong. The next morning, everything unraveled. Maya woke up to find Daniel already dressed, his bag packed, his phone in his hand, his whole body language different, more distant, more hurried. "I have to fly to Hong Kong," he said quickly, not quite meeting her eyes, looking at his watch instead. "Emergency meeting, client issue. Something went wrong with one of the other deals and I have to fix it in person. I'll be back in 2 days." 2 days. Maya sat up, her heart starting to pound, that cold fear from yesterday flooding back. "Daniel, I'm only here for another 3 days total." I know, I'm sorry. But this is important. This is the deal I've been telling you about. The big one. If I don't handle this personally, we could lose everything, including your investment." He leaned down and kissed her forehead, the gesture quick and perfunctory. "Stay here. Relax. Enjoy the city. Order room service. I'll leave my card." But he didn't leave a card. "I'll be back before you leave, I promise. And when I get back, we'll celebrate. You'll see." And then he was gone. Maya sat alone in the apartment, her phone in her hand, staring at the door he had just walked through. The silence was enormous. She opened her banking app with shaking hands. The $3,217 was gone, vanished completely. In its place was a pending transaction, a string of numbers and letters she didn't recognize, no company name, no explanation, just an alphanumeric code that meant nothing. She opened the crypto platform Daniel had sent her, logged in with the credentials he had created. The account was there, her name at the top, her email address, but the balance showed 0. No transaction history, no record of her deposit, no pending transfers, nothing. Her hands started to shake violently. She tried calling Daniel. It rang once and went to voicemail. His voice on the recording, smooth and confident, asking her to leave a message. She didn't. She tried texting him instead. No response. She tried again and again. Nothing. Not even read receipts. Hours passed like days. She searched his name online, suddenly desperate for information she should have looked for months ago. Daniel Reeves, Singapore, crypto. The results were scattered and unhelpful. A few social media profiles, none of them clearly him. A LinkedIn page that looked half-finished. A resume that didn't quite make sense. Nothing concrete, nothing real, nothing that proved he was who he said he was. She went back through their messages, 6 months of conversations, thousands of messages, and started clicking on the photos he had sent her. The penthouse with the view of Marina Bay, the luxury cars, the rooftop bars, the private dinners. She saved them and ran them through reverse image search. Her stomach dropped. Stock photos, luxury lifestyle blogs, Pinterest boards, Instagram accounts that weren't his. None of them were original. None of them were his life. All of it was borrowed, stolen, curated to create an illusion. She sat on the floor of the apartment, her laptop open, her breath coming in short gasps, her chest so tight she thought she might be having a heart attack. She called Jenna, and when her friend answered, Maya couldn't speak for a long moment. She just cried, huge gasping sobs that hurt her throat. What happened? Jenna's voice was sharp, urgent, already afraid. "Maya, what happened?" Maya told her everything. The investment, the transfer, the empty account, the fake photos, The emergency trip to Hong Kong, the $3,000 that was just gone, disappeared into nothing. "Oh my God," Jenna whispered. "Maya, you need to report this. Right now. Call the police. Call your bank. You need to stop the transfer. You need to—" "I can't," Maya said, her voice breaking into pieces. "I gave him the money. I sent it myself. I did this." "No, he did this. He lied to you. He manipulated you. He scammed you." But Maya couldn't stop shaking. She had trusted him. She had believed every single word. She had ignored every warning sign, every doubt, every moment when something felt wrong. And now everything she had was gone. And it was her fault. And she was alone in a foreign country, and she didn't know what to do. She spent the next 2 days trying desperately to undo it. She contacted the crypto platform, but the support email bounced back with an error message saying the domain didn't exist. She called her bank in Portland, sitting on hold for 40 minutes while tears ran down her face. But when she finally reached someone, they told her the transfer had already cleared, sent to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands that couldn't be traced or reversed without a court order. She filed a police report in Singapore, taking a taxi to a government office and sitting in a sterile room while a board officer took her statement with obvious skepticism, typing slowly with 2 fingers, and told her without much hope in his voice that cases like this were nearly impossible to recover from. The money was gone. These scammers knew what they were doing. "How many women has he done this to?" she asked, her voice small. The officer looked at her with something like pity. He didn't answer. Daniel never came back. His phone went to voicemail permanently. His social media accounts went dark. The service department had been rented under a fake name. There was no trace of him anywhere, like he had simply evaporated. Maya flew home 3 days later, her return flight already booked, non-refundable. She sat in the same first-class seat Daniel had paid for, but this time she felt nothing. No hope, no excitement. Just a hollow, aching emptiness that seemed to fill every part of her body. The flight attendants brought her champagne and she stared at it until it went flat. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. She just sat there for 14 hours, watching the flight map on the screen, watching the little plane icon inch its way across the Pacific, taking her back to her small apartment and her mediocre job and the life she had tried so hard to escape. When she got back to Portland, she couldn't bring herself to tell anyone the full story. She told her sister she had a nice trip, that Singapore was beautiful, that things with Daniel just didn't work out the way she hoped. She told her coworkers the vacation was good, but she was glad to be home. She went back to work, back to her apartment, back to her life like nothing had happened. But everything had changed. She checked her bank account every day, multiple times a day, hoping for a miracle that never came, hoping the money would somehow reappear. It never did. She searched for Daniel online obsessively, scrolling through profiles, running facial recognition searches, looking for any trace of the man who had taken everything from her. She found nothing. He had vanished like smoke, like he was never real to begin with. Weeks passed, then months. The savings account stayed empty. Maya picked up freelance work in the evenings, working until midnight to try to rebuild what she had lost. She stopped going out. She stopped answering Jenna's calls. She moved through her days like a ghost, functioning but not living, doing what she needed to do but feeling nothing. And then one day, 4 months after she came home, Jenna sent her a link. A news article from the BBC about a romance scam ring operating out of Southeast Asia, organized crime, networks of fake identities, men who didn't exist, women lured from around the world, millions of dollars stolen through cryptocurrency platforms that vanished as soon as the transactions cleared. The article included a photo of several men who had been arrested, and one of them looked like Daniel. Same height, same build, same smile. But the name was different. The nationality was different. Everything was different. Maya stared at the photo for a long time, sitting at her desk in her apartment, the city of Portland gray and wet outside her window. She wanted to feel anger. She wanted to feel rage, the kind of burning fury that would give her energy to do something, to fight back, to demand justice. But all she felt was tired, bone deep, soul-crushing tired. She thought about the woman she had been 7 months ago, the one who had been careful, guarded, the one who didn't trust easily, who had learned from past mistakes, who had built walls to protect herself. She thought about the hope she had felt walking through Changi Airport at midnight, the way her heart had raced when she saw the black Mercedes waiting at the curb, the way she had let herself believe, just for a moment, that someone could want her enough to fly her across the world, that she could be special enough to deserve something extraordinary. And she thought about how easy it had been for him to take that hope and twist it into something else, how easy it had been to find her weaknesses and exploit them, how easy it had been to make her doubt herself, to make her ignore every instinct screaming that something was wrong, to make her believe that love and risk were the same thing, that trust meant abandoning caution, that if she was really brave, she would take the leap without looking down. She never got her money back. She never heard from Daniel again. The investigation mentioned in the article went nowhere. The suspects released due to lack of evidence. The networks too sophisticated to untangle. But the scar he left didn't fade. It changed shape over time, became something she learned to live with, but it never disappeared. Some nights, even now, Maya lies awake and thinks about that moment in the service department in Singapore, sitting on the bed with her laptop open, her finger hovering over the screen, the transaction waiting to be confirmed. She thinks about the tightness in her chest, the voice in her head that had whispered something was wrong, that had begged her to stop, to wait, to ask more questions. She thinks about how she had ignored it, how she had clicked anyway, because she had wanted so badly to believe. She had wanted so badly to be chosen, and in the end, that was the real cost. Not the money, though the money mattered. Not the humiliation, though that stung every time she thought about it. But the part of herself she had given away. The part that believed she deserved something more than her ordinary life. The part that had been willing to hope, to trust, to believe in possibility. The part that had made her human. Daniel Reeves, or whoever he really was, wherever he is now, had stolen that from her. And she didn't know if she would ever get it back. Trust is the strangest currency we have. We spend it freely on people who show us what we want to see, and we hoard it from those who show us the truth. We give it to beautiful lies and withhold it from uncomfortable honesty. Maya learned that the hardest way possible. She learned that the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves, that we are safe, that we are special, that this time will be different, that we can tell the difference between love and manipulation. The world is full of people who know how to find that hope in others and weaponize it. They know how to listen, how to wait, how to make you believe that the risk is worth it, that the leap is necessary, that the only thing stopping you from the life you deserve is your own fear. They know exactly what to say and when to say it. They study you like a language they're learning to speak fluently. And sometimes, the only thing on the other side of that leap is nothing. Just empty air, and the long, terrible fall that comes after.